So what I've been gathering throughout my time with this game is that Dynasty Warriors Origin has been pretty well received from a lot of Musou fans and just mainstream gaming fans as well. Potentially, this could warrant DLC? A sequel? Well, today I wanted to take a step back, and yes, you are going to get your review of this game. I know I'm late on it, and talk about what if they made a sequel? What could they do? What routes to take? Well, that's what I'm here on how I personally would write this next game's story if it was made. So right off the bat, they could start the game off strong, maybe as you playing at Zelo 1 just for this occasion of the aftermath or the final moments of Kirby fighting Cao Cao's forces, since historically Cao Cao loses here to Liu Bei and Sun Quan. After it, it shows Zelo 1 taking his lead from everyone. He helped establish the Three Kingdoms in a way, with all of them now in a somewhat equal footing. This is where Zelo 1 takes a step back from being the main protagonist of this game, and we see him later on, which we'll talk about later. For now, let's focus on the Three Kingdoms. You have Cao Cao, who has retreated and has more things to handle in the north. Going off of previous games, this is where he would handle the likes of Ma Teng and Ma Chao, Zhong Lu as well later on. For Liu Bei, he races against Wu to take the areas of Jing province since both do desperately want that territory. After that, Liu Bei focuses on taking Yi province to officially make himself into the ruler of the Shu Kingdom. Wu would also take part in the race for Jing as mentioned before, but of course they fall short due to Zhuge Liang's quick thinking. They then, once again based off of previous games, then deal with new characters being introduced, like the Nanman forces and Zhao Zi. All three kingdoms had their own struggles to deal with in the beginning, which can be used as a means of reintroducing the characters and see what they now have to deal with before once again making a decision on who to serve. But where do you, the player, go into this? Well, I've been told there's a chance that there could be a character creator being introduced in this next game to replace playing as Zelo 1. So this could go either way, but I'll go with what I enjoyed the best. Two options. You are starting from the bottom, a farmer maybe, who heard about the Battle of Kirby. You feel it's a good time as any to start maybe putting down your farming tools and pick up a weapon. You can be seen as the most skilled fighter in your village, able to adapt easily to many situations and can use just about any weapon with their proper training, similar to Zelo 1. Just not very supernatural like he is. Or if they want to go a similar route to Zelo 1, where you can form more of a bond with him and potentially buy Luan, you can be someone who used to be a Guardian of Peace, either exiled or just happened to survive the destruction of the village and their people by hiding or not being at the village at the time. You can inherit the same abilities as Zelo 1, but with your own personal custom character. Either of these options work for me, honestly. So with that in mind, you go about your business and help each kingdom with their own problems as they start to build or rebuild, if you're Cao Cao, their kingdom's strengths. It's similar to the first few chapters of Origins, where you help them with their battles and you get to make a connection with each of them as you stand out more and more with each battle. Then eventually you make a choice on who to serve. It will for the most part go about the same way as it would with Zelo 1, but you yourself would become well-known sword for hire and just climb the ranks. This is where things get interesting though. Obviously, if you're not familiar with previous Dynasty Warriors games and their story, or not familiar with the Three Kingdoms, if like Origins was your first ever experience for the Three Kingdoms, you will get spoiled here. Fair warning on how things are going to go down here as the story progresses. Just as you build each kingdom, you will soon start to see a slow decline in each one as well. This story, I plan, is going to be a sad one. For starters, you go through the battles of whatever kingdom you like normal, fighting battle after battle and forming bonds with the characters you fight alongside with each kingdom. I would imagine as well, you get to see Zelo 1, who I will talk more about here in just a little bit, because he's got a huge part to play with what I have in mind. Depending on how things go with your character, on whatever route they would take, you can learn from him as a Guardian of Peace just like he was, gaining the knowledge and skills Zelo 1 got by the end of the game as you progress more. This will allow you to also form a bond with the previous MC from a different perspective. And as I said, this is where things will start to get kinda sad. The battles, as I said, will play out more like normal, eventually going to parts that make Zelo 1 start to sour and even regret helping each of the Three Kingdoms. Big spoilers ahead. If you have no knowledge of the ending of DDB Origins or the Three Kingdoms, you have been warned. Let's start with the biggest one in my books, Cao Cao of Wei. And it will involve our dear friend Yuan Hua, aka Hua Tuo, as mentioned at the end of the game. Obviously, Yuan Hua, from what you saw, was very well known for his work as a doctor to many. Eventually, he would be in Shu, capital of Wei, where he would have to be Cao Cao's personal doctor, which Yuan Hua resented. Due to Cao Cao's chronic migraines he would get quite frequently. I'm not joking. Now, I've seen different takes on what comes next, but we'll say that Yuan Hua, with his disapproval of his job over time, would stop helping Cao Cao due to his resentment. He makes excuses to where he wouldn't be able to give Cao Cao any treatment due to a loved one or something like that. Cao Cao catches wind of this lie, and he has Yuan Hua, Hua Tuo, executed. Something that Cao Cao does show regret for later, but at this point, the damage is done. Yuan Hua is Ziluan's closest friend in Origins. This could immediately make Ziluan bloodthirsty for Cao Cao, wanting to end him for killing his best friend. This isn't some sad trauma dump thing to make it more dramatic. This actually does happen where Hua Tuo does get executed by Cao Cao. It just happens to also be Ziluan's best friend, which helps out here. So this gives Ziluan's first reason to hate on the Three Kingdoms. He helped make that monster Cao Cao so strong in establishing his kingdom. Now he lost his friend and he's filled with rage and resentment and sadness. Now, that was the easy reason for Ziluan to be angry at the Three Kingdoms, specifically Cao Cao, but let's get a little more complicated. Let's move over to Wu next, as we're just going to go in order based on the events. Wu, time after time, wanted Jing province from Shu, as they felt Shu owed them for the Battle of Cherubi, Wu having most of their manpower since Shu had little to nothing at the time. Time after time, their rage and grief grew, as not only were they not getting what they felt they were owed, they were also getting insulted by the man who was in charge of Jing, Guan Yu. Wu felt like they were being taken advantage of a lot by their alliance with Shu, as they felt Shu was just getting stronger while Wu was getting very little out of this. To make matters worse, when they would send people to negotiate Jing numerous times, they would be insulted at that when Guan Yu belittled Sun Quan. Doubtful they'll actually show this part, since Romance of the Three Kingdoms usually makes Shu look good, but you get the idea. They have a lot of reasons to be pissed off at Shu. Eventually, Wu will join Wei in the Battle of Fan Castle, ultimately betraying Shu and killing Guan Yu in the process. This in turn once again will make Ziluan think that Wu is treacherous for not keeping their alliance with Shu, and they were corrupted by greed for Jing province that they would kill Ziluan's longtime friend, the guy you start Origins with, Guan Yu, in betraying Shu. This will make Ziluan once again not only think that Wu can't be trusted, but he could, depending on how they handle it, have animosity towards Sun Quan and Wu for killing his first friend since his memory was lost. Now on to Shu. Well, this one can go either way, and it was a bit tough once I started thinking more about it because of the whole death of Guan Yu, but let's go over this nonetheless. As I mentioned, Guan Yu died, Ziluan's first friend in Origins. He can see that Wu betrayed his first friend and killed him. That alone would make it more possible for Ziluan to side with Shu. He is a mere shadow in a sense, and he could go get his revenge while Liu Bei could simply let himself compose, listen to his officers who tell him not to attack Wu right now, and simply recuperate. Obviously, Liu Bei doesn't do this, not to say it's not understandable, and decides to attack Wu. Not only angered by Wu betraying them, but also killing his sworn brother. Oh, and eventually Zhong Fei too, which officially sets Liu Bei over the edge, and become blinded by his rage and lust for revenge. Liu Bei listens to no one, not even Zhuge Liang or Zhao Yun. He goes with the intent of annihilating the Wu army. Now again, this could be tough. You could say Ziluan understands Liu Bei's gripes and lets him do what he must, maybe even helps him. Who knows? Or, like I said before, he could be the one to take down Sun Quan personally while letting Liu Bei collect himself and not let him lose sight of his goal, and himself for that matter. Liu Bei doing so, though, officially could be the last straw for Ziluan. Liu Bei, who is idolized by many as virtuous, benevolent, and always acted for others and not for himself, loses his way and is willing to do whatever it takes, not thinking of the people, but his own bloodlust, which is the biggest punch and shows that he's no hero through Ziluan's eyes. Knowing this is the end of the great kingdom of Shu, and now resents his action for helping a man who would lose his way in the snap of a finger. A brutal one, mind you, but just like that, nonetheless. All of this could make Ziluan lose himself, become another Bai Luan in a sense. He has lost faith and feels betrayed by every single one of them. He could take it upon himself to do what Bai Luan was already planning to do and wipe out these so-called heroes. He would feel it's his responsibility as the man who fought alongside each of them and had a huge hand to play in their growth to put them down once and for all. This, of course, is where Bai Luan comes in to play too, egging on Ziluan to join him and take out these rulers just like he was trying to do in the first game. As he said at the end of the game, if Ziluan couldn't keep them in line and they lost their way, he would destroy the heroes that Ziluan put his blood, sweat, and trust into. This is where you, now the player at this point, as the new MC with your created character, would be with either kingdom and have to stop Ziluan and Bailuan from destroying the kingdom you now work for. Whatever kingdom you play, that'll be the kingdom they try to end. This could go either way here. My thought process is you have no choice but to cross blades with both of them, fighting until you eventually have to kill them both. I had this idea right as I'm typing this out. You could have to kill Bailuan somewhere in the middle of the game, to where Ziluan feels you now fully betrayed him and made him lose his last two friends. Bailuan dying to your blade, and in a way, you betraying Ziluan for killing his friend. It is absolutely sad, and I can see that this could be where maybe Ziluan could be your final boss of the game, if there's only this route. You go through the final battle. You fight through the enemy at whatever stage you're on for the final battle, which we'll get into in just a moment. You finish it, it cuts to the results screen, you win. But it cuts back to an empty field. You're left alone, and there's one red dot on the map that is waiting for you, and it's Ziluan himself, ready to fight you one last time. You kill Ziluan, and that's that. You get an emotional, sad fight with him, and it's over. If you even want to go even more sad with it, you can even say that you both die. You both give each other a fatal blow, and you both perish, which at that point allows all the historical figures to just take over the rest of the story, which would just be explained in the cutscene after the final battle. But if you want to just go with the sad route of your custom character still being alive and holding your first protagonist of this new series of Dynasty Warriors in your arms, that could be just as impactful, honestly. Now, where would this final battle take place? Because that's important too. We have 3 kingdoms here, and there's no big triple battle or anything like that. Well, the final battle, or battles, would be Hefei Castle, where Wu fights Wei in a final battle, and then Wuzhong Plains, where Shu fights Wei in their final battle. Just like in many other Warriors games before Dynasty Warriors 7. Now, I know it's not the actual final battle, and yes, there's the Jin Dynasty that is the one to take out Wu, Shu, and Wei from the inside to truly unify the 3 Kingdoms era, but I think those battles would be perfect. Hefei Castle and Wuzhong Plains. Everything after that is just a sad, slow, and many could see as an uninteresting decline because of just how pathetic it is until Jin takes over. There's not really any epic battles between 2 incredible armies anymore, just a sad decline of infighting and corruption, and all the warriors we know and love in these games are gone, pretty much. Personally, I feel it would be a huge turnoff for a lot of mainstream fans who want a sequel that are experiencing Dynasty Warriors for the first time. I think a nice rundown before the credits or maybe a DLC of Jin would be interesting, but I don't think it should be in the base game. Not to say a lot of Jin characters couldn't be in the game, the Simas have to be in the game, so that's a given. Many of them would just be Wei officers instead of Jin. That seems like the easiest way to appease those who want Jin characters because a lot of them are there after Cherubi and leading into Wuzhong Plains. I just feel this would be perfect. This last final battle, regardless of the story. Those 2 battlefields would be Ziluan's last stand to officially destroy 2 major kingdoms in one massive battle, to put an end to what he felt he helped create. Get revenge for all those he was close to in the previous games that died. To kill you, who turned their back on him and killed Bailuan. It's sad, but the end of the 3 kingdoms is sad. I think it would be perfect to finish it there. Now, I know for many that is incredibly freaking sad, and people probably want more than that. So here's something else. More hypotheticals where everyone lives. Sort of. Let's explain. For characters that are technically supposed to not be around anymore, like Sun Ce, Sun Jian, Guojia, Dian Wei, and many others before Cherubi actually happens, they're probably still dead, unless those true endings just happen to make them alive in this timeline that depends on the devs. Without going too into detail here, you can make it to where you save those that are meant to be killed, saving Guan Yu from Fawn Castle like I mentioned, Zhou Yu who's supposed to die not long after Cherubi, Lu Su who is usually the peacemaker between Shu and Wu, Xiahou Yuan who dies too. I know I'm missing out on others, but you get the idea. This could make it to where, with all of them alive, the rulers don't lose their way. Ziluan doesn't lose anyone. Bailuan kinda doesn't play a factor in this at all. And yes, even Yuan Hua would live too, somehow. I'm sure they could find a way. This would allow you to be close to Ziluan even more now, learn more from him and grow a bond with him. He could take a step back and let you do what you think is right, like how Bailawan does since Silawan sees all of them still as worthy heroes. Regardless of who wins and places that trust in you to let you pick the kingdom you think is best, and he'll support you through it. And of course, hopefully if bonds are still a thing, you can do more of that with characters who die prematurely, and you don't get to finish their bonds unless they stay alive. It's not much to go off of, but I mean, most hypotheticals pretty much go that way in DW games. It's mostly for a happy ending and just more content. Obviously, we would get more weapons to use that add on to the already established weapons from Dynasty Warriors Origins and get more companions as well to play with. This video was more so for the story. I assume people would want me to say this, but you can leave your thoughts on who should be playable as companions in the next game in the comments. Also, allow us to play with them more frequently? Or at least how Samurai Warriors does it, where you can play as your MC and whatever companion you have and switch between them whenever you want without the worry of time limits and Muso gauges emptying. Could be a fun way to level up the proficiency of a weapon without having to just be your own character for it. You can enjoy the companion to their fullest, let you carry over the training for your weapon proficiencies, and the training characters give you to grow their bonds. But that's all about I wanted to see from a potential sequel. Again, mostly from a story perspective. I think dropping Zila 1 after this would be a huge disservice, not saying that's actually happening. And it could make the next game so much more emotional and excellent from a story perspective. But let me know what you all think in the comments down below. What would you do? I'm curious about it. And of course, if you enjoyed this video and you want more discussions like this, hit the like button. And if you like my content and you're new here, hit the subscribe button, as we are trying to hit 10K subs on the channel. With that being said, thank you all very much for watching. Hope you all have a great rest of your day and or evening. I'll see you all in the next one. Farewell.